When I bought the house, I thought I was finally stepping into a life I'd worked years to build. A quiet street, picket fences, friendly smiles, and lawns so neatly trimmed they looked photoshopped. It was supposed to be peaceful, predictable, safe. That illusion lasted exactly 6 days. I hadn't even unpacked all my boxes when I first met her, Karen, the president of the Homeowners Association. She showed up at my front door uninvited, clipboard in hand, lips pursed like she'd smelled something sour. She didn't knock so much as tap, precise, sharp, like she was delivering an official notice of judgment. "Good morning," she said without smiling. "I'm Karen. I oversee the standards of our community." I blinked. "Nice to meet you," I offered. She looked me over like I was a misplaced item in her curated world. "We have guidelines here," she said. "Strict ones. I assume you read the HOA manual." I hadn't. I'd skimmed it, sure. Who reads 87 pages of bylaws when they're trying to move furniture and schedule a plumber? Karen didn't wait for my response. She handed me a neatly folded packet, already printed and stapled. "I'd familiarize yourself, especially sections 4 through 9. With that, she turned and walked away, clipboard clutched like a weapon. That was my welcome to the neighborhood. For the first couple months, I tried to fly under the radar. I trimmed the hedges, kept my trash bins out of sight, and even bought the exact mulch color I saw in everyone else's flower beds. I played the game. I followed the rules. Then came the mailbox. It was old, rusty, and clearly had seen better days. The paint had chipped, the post leaned slightly, and the whole thing looked like it belonged at a scrapyard. One Saturday afternoon, I decided to fix it. I sanded it down, straightened the post, and repainted it with a rich, navy blue, subtle, calming, and, for me, deeply personal. Blue was my brother's favorite color. He passed away 2 years ago in a motorcycle accident. We used to talk about painting our childhood home blue someday. It was this silly, running idea we had. So that mailbox, to me, wasn't just a mailbox. It was a quiet tribute, a private reminder, something that brought me peace. I didn't think anyone would notice. But of course, Karen noticed. I was sipping coffee on my porch the next morning when I saw her standing across the street, staring, not blinking, clipboard in hand, pen tapping furiously. She walked straight up to my mailbox and took 3 pictures, one from the front, one from the side, and one from the back like she was documenting a crime scene. Then, without a word, she turned and stormed off. I found the letter taped to my door an hour later. Notice of violation. It stated that my mailbox color violated the uniform aesthetic guidelines outlined in Section 8, subsection C, and that I had 72 hours to repaint it to an approved color, black, white, or forest green. Failure to comply would result in fines and further disciplinary action. I read it twice, then laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was insane. I walked the block that evening, curious. I saw one house with a flamingo statue on their lawn. Another had yellow shutters, definitely not neutral. One had a mailbox shaped like a fish. A fish, but mine, a standard-shaped box painted in navy blue, was the threat to the neighborhood's harmony? Still, I figured I'd talk to her like an adult. I caught Karen 2 days later outside her house, clipping her hedges with the intensity of someone performing surgery. "Hey, Karen," I said casually. "About the letter." She cut me off. "Deadline's tomorrow." I just wanted to say, I didn't mean to cause any trouble. I chose blue because, well, it has personal meaning. I looked at the manual and didn't see anything that specifically prohibited navy. "Not approved," she snapped without looking up. Page 47. Clear as day. "I just think." "It's not about what you think," she hissed. "It's about compliance. This is a community, not a canvas." I stood there for a moment, stunned. Not just at the rigidity, but the coldness. I tried to reason, tried to be respectful, but she didn't want dialogue. She wanted control. So I made a decision. I wasn't going to repaint the mailbox. 3 days later, there was a knock on my door. Not a tap this time, a full police knock. Heavy, sharp, I opened it to see two uniformed officers standing on my porch. "Good afternoon, sir," one said. "We received a report about a potential disturbance in the neighborhood." "A disturbance?" I asked. They glanced at each other, almost embarrassed. "A complaint about non-compliance with HOA regulations. Something about a mailbox." I stepped outside and saw her, Karen, standing across the street with her arms crossed like a villain at the end of a Marvel movie. Her face was smug, victorious. I turned to the officer. "Are you serious?" He sighed. "Unfortunately, once someone calls it in, we're obligated to respond." She called the police over paint. "We're here as a formality. We're not issuing citations. But maybe you can work this out through the HOA channels." "Already tried," I muttered. Karen strutted over like she owned the street. "Officers, this resident is willfully violating our agreed-upon standards. I've issued written warnings. He's refused to comply. He painted a mailbox," the younger officer replied. "We don't arrest people for blue paint." Karen's jaw tightened. "It's not about paint. It's about respect." "Ma'am," the officer said patiently, "this is not a police matter. If you feel this strongly, you can escalate it through civil channels. But this isn't an emergency." Karen turned red, but the officers left, and I stood on my porch, watching her glare burn a hole through me. That's when I realized this wasn't about a mailbox anymore. This was about power. And if Karen wanted to fight, she had won. I spent the next week doing something I should have done a long time ago, reading the HOA manual cover to cover. Not skimming, reading. Every bylaw, every amendment, every tiny footnote. And what I found, gold. For starters, the rule about mailbox colors? It existed, but it wasn't as airtight as Karen claimed. Nowhere did it list exact shades. Neutral tones encouraged was the language. Not mandatory, not enforceable, but that was just the beginning. I found notes about term limits. Karen's last re-election had been nearly 4 years ago. The HOA rules clearly stated presidents must be re-elected every 2 years. She was overdue and operating outside her legal authority. Then there were the structural violations. Her backyard had a pergola, no permit. Her house had string lights, unapproved fixtures. Her dog, constantly off-leash, against HOA pet policy. I started collecting evidence. Photos, screenshots of bylaws, copies of her letters. I wasn't just preparing for a fight. I was preparing to win. Then I took it public. I wrote a long, respectful but damning email. I laid out the facts. I highlighted the hypocrisy. I attached images of violations. I didn't insult her. I didn't name call. I simply asked, should the person enforcing the rules be the one breaking them? I sent it to every homeowner in the community. Within 48 hours, my inbox was flooded. Dozens of neighbors responded. Stories of harassment, letters, fines for things like wind chimes or Halloween decorations. Karen had ruled with fear for so long that no one had dared challenge her. Until now, someone called for a community meeting. Attendance was mandatory. Karen tried to enter that meeting like usual, clipboard in hand, cold stare, ready to intimidate. But something was different. People didn't look down. They looked at me. And when I stood up to speak, I wasn't alone. One by one, neighbors came forward. Quietly. Then louder. She fined me for putting a bird feeder up, one woman said. She threatened to sue me over a lawn chair, another added. By the time I finished reading the section about term violations, even the board looked uncomfortable. A vote was called. Should Karen be removed from her role immediately? Almost every hand in the room went up. She didn't speak, didn't scream. She just walked out. No clipboard, no power, no more control. Karen sold her house 3 months later. She never made a public statement, never apologized, just left. Some say she moved to a stricter community. Others say she tried to start fresh in a place where no one knew her name. I didn't care either way. Our HOA rewrote its rules with input from residents. Real input. A committee was formed. The mailbox rule? Gone. Replaced with a new guideline. Reasonable personal expression encouraged. And you know what happened next? Neighbors started painting their mailboxes. One went with maroon. Another tried bronze. I saw a pale blue one pop up 3 houses down. Then someone did stripes. It became this quiet little wave of independence. Everyone claiming a tiny piece of personality on the curb. And mine? Still navy blue. Still standing. Sometimes I look at it and smile. Not because I won some petty war, but because I refused to bow to ridiculous control. Because I defended something small that meant something big. I didn't expect to change the neighborhood. I didn't expect to lead anything. I just didn't want to be bullied. But when you stand up, especially when no one else will, you give people permission to do the same. And Karen? She learned the hard way that fear might build silence, but it never builds respect. I moved here for peace. Ironically, it took one painted mailbox to finally find it.